These days, there is a lot of talk about sexual and gender-based violence. So, what is sexual and gender-based violence? How can these affect young people in crisis settings? And what can you do to protect yourself? Gender-based violence is any harmful act which is carried out without a person's consent and is based on gender norms and unequal relationships. Sexual violence means having sexual contact without a person's consent, including rape and other sexual contact, like touching private parts of the body. It can also include saying sexual things about someone or posting pictures of a sexual nature. Sexual and gender-based violence can happen to anyone and is never the victim's fault. Women and men, girls and boys, adults and children, and people identifying as LGBT can all become victims of SGBV. Other groups that might be subject of sexual and gender-based violence include pregnant women and girls, the young and elderly, people with disabilities, people living with HIV, migrants, internally displaced persons, members of indigenous and ethnic minority communities, sex workers, and those with substance use disorders. For example, in crisis situations, young people often have to travel long distances to get water, food, or fuel. And when a young girl is left alone to be responsible for cooking, laundry, or washing dishes, the risks of violence are further increased. So, it's better to always go with a friend or an older person that you trust when going a long distance so that you are not alone. The risk of violence increases significantly in various crisis situations. When we are forced to leave our homes and move to camps, dormitories, or temporary shelters, the risks of sexual and gender-based violence increase, especially as, in many cases, personal and sanitary spaces are not protected. There are shared toilets, showers, and changing rooms. Sexual harassment includes any unwanted, sexualized verbal or physical behavior, including unwelcome sexual comments, gestures, and touching. Cases of sexual harassment increase especially during crisis situations. Crisis situations also increase the risks of trafficking, especially for women and girls, a crime where people are used, especially women and girls but also boys, for someone else's personal gain. It includes forced labor, making someone work for a little or no money, and sex trafficking where people are forced to perform sexual activities. In order to minimize the risks of violence in crisis situations, try to be around others, such as a friend or an older person whom you trust, so that you are not alone. Do not trust a stranger who offers you money or a job. In case of any danger, call the hotline of your country and ask for help. If necessary, go to the nearest medical facility and request primary health services. Even in crisis settings, you have the right to be safe and free from sexual and gender-based violence. Always remember, sexual and reproductive health and rights are human rights. It doesn't matter whether you are in a crisis situation or not. You must have access to vital services.